Hey, what's going on, eSkaters? This is the Raldey ATV2 review, where I show you exactly how this thing performs in real life and show you everything that you need to know about this e-board to help you decide whether or not this is the best electric skateboard for you. I'll start with the price. It is $1,049 US, which makes it Raldey's top of the range electric skateboard. At this price, it's not really in the affordable electric skateboard category anymore, but compared to some of its competitors like the Wowgo AT2, it is still the cheapest option. It's boasted to have a 30 kilometer or 18.6 mile range and a 46 kilometer hour or 28.5 miles per hour top speed, but I'll be testing that a little bit later on in the video. I want to tell you who I think this board is suited for, but in order to do that, we need to take a closer look at this board's specs. And I'll do it quickly so we can get to the fun part of testing the performance. The deck is a 35-inch fully enclosed carbon fiber unibody deck. So it's super stiff, and the only sort of flex you get is from the double kingpin trucks, which is hardly anything. But the important thing I want to draw your attention to here is the deck length. It's actually a 35-inch deck, not a 40-inch deck that it says on their website. I have emailed Raldey to let them know of this, so hopefully they've already updated the website. The reason this is important is because it changes who this electric skateboard is ideally for. I'm just 6 feet tall and I find this deck to be a tad too short. I actually prefer a 40-inch deck. I think the Raldey ATV2 is probably more suited to a rider who is about 5'10" or shorter, but it all comes down to personal preference in the end. I've tried a few regular longboard decks to get a feel of what size you feel most comfortable on. The wheels are airless, all-terrain rubber tires and come in 165mm or 195mm. The small wheels will give you more torque at the expense of a higher top speed, while the larger wheels will give you a higher top speed at expense of a little bit of acceleration power. I have the 195mm wheels, and overall I felt comfortable riding over cracks and bumps in the road. I still do prefer pneumatics, but I think as far as rubber wheels go, these ones do pretty well. The key factor of these wheels is that they are labeled all-terrain. That means paved roads, grass, and dirt. The tread on the wheels is quite urban. They're fantastic for paved roads and they do a decent job of cruising along dirt tracks and grass, but if you're looking to do any hard off-road riding, these wheels don't cut it. As soon as you pick up the pace on a dirt trail, the traction becomes sloppy and you spend a lot of energy trying to keep the board from slipping away from you. Well, for starters, as I've already mentioned, the deck length isn't ideal for my height. To add double kingpin trucks to the mix, well, that's almost a recipe for disaster. The last time I rode a 36-inch deck with double kingpin trucks was on the Viril RS, and well, that didn't end well for me. It's fair to say that I took it a lot easier this time around. I tightened the trucks all the way up to be safe, and when I was riding, I still felt like the ATV2 had quite a bit of room to carve with. For the electronics, the ATV2 has a 14 amp hour 10S 4-piece Sanyo GA battery, dual 63-60-gate belt drive motors with a rated power output of 1500 watts each, and a Hobbywing ESC with minor customization tweaks. Having looked at all of the specs of the Raldey ATV2, I think this board is perfect for someone who is 5'10" or shorter and want something just to cruise around on and maybe even commute to work or school. It's good enough to go on some off-road trails like compact dirt trails or the grass when you're cutting corners in the pavement, but I wouldn't recommend this to anyone looking to do some real hard off-road riding. That was just a real quick look at the specs of this board. If you want some detailed information, check down in the description below. There's a link to my written review that has got a whole bunch of extra nuggets of information. Finally, it's time to jump into the performance tests. My final range was 21.4 kilometers, which is 13.2 miles. Plus, I accidentally turned my GPS tracker off momentarily for about 500 to 800 meters, and that was a really steep incline on a gravel trail, so I think the real range would have been bang on 22 kilometers. That was hard riding on a track that was 80% off-road and only 20% street riding. It was a tough trail too, probably stretching the ATV2's capabilities. There were lots of up and downs with loose gravel and large rocks and crevices. Put it this way, I wouldn't take this board the next time I went to ride that trail. Considering the trail and the amount of thrashing that I gave this board, I think the range is pretty good. I also watched a few other reviewers and they got really close to the spec range. The top speed is all very confusing on the Raldey ATV2. The website states that it can get up to 46 kilometers an hour, which is 28.5 miles per hour. But if you run the throttle without riding, the remote only gets up to 33 kilometers an hour, or 21 miles per hour. Then to get even more complicated, on my top speed test, I managed to hit a top speed of 38 kilometers an hour, which is 23.6 miles per hour, tracking with my GPS watch. I sent Raldey an email about this discrepancy, and they said that the top speed that is displayed on their website was what they got from a lab test. Not really a true indication of top speed in my opinion, because no one is riding the board in a lab. It's always going to be in the real world. As I mentioned, I also watched some other reviewers and they all seem to get the same top speed that I did. However, aside from the fact that this top speed is overstated, I think 38 kilometers an hour on a board like this is plenty enough, especially for someone of my height on this deck with double kingpin trucks. I was feeling a bit sketchy heading into the top speed. I wouldn't want to push it too much harder with this hardware setup. For the type of rider looking to buy this board, that speed is enough. The acceleration on the Raldey ATV2 is quite good. The curve is smooth and reliable. It's not too punchy, so it won't be throwing you off unless, of course, you're not ready for it. I think the acceleration curves are matched well to the riding modes. In low mode, you get very manageable acceleration, while in the high plus mode, there's some pop that experienced riders will enjoy. I had no issues with the brakes. They bring you to a stop fairly quickly, but most importantly, safely. There's no jerking when you switch from accelerating to braking. On smooth, paved roads, the Carbon ATV2 will climb most hills that you can encounter at a speed of around 15 to 20 kilometers an hour. However, on this particular gravel trail that I rode, where the inclines are quite sharp, this thing really struggled. The combination between the steepness and the gravel track meant that I couldn't get any traction on the incline, and I couldn't even get up a few of them. That goes back to what I was saying about this board not really being good enough for hard off-road riding. To reiterate what I've already said throughout the video, I think this board is good for someone who is sub 5'10" and wants something comfortable for commuting and some light off-road riding. It has a great range capability and a more than enough top speed, even if it is overstated on their website. Look, at the end of the day, if it's good enough for Matty from Evolve to model for it, then it's good enough for me. That's my Raldey Carbon ATV2 electric skateboard review. I hope I've made your search for the best electric skateboard that much easier. If I have, then slam that like button, hit subscribe for all the latest electric skateboard reviews. And if you have any questions, please just drop them down in the comments below. I'll do my best to get you the answer. Thanks for watching. Ride safe out there, e-skaters, and I'll see you soon.